Greene says to be wary of friends. They will betray you more easily, more quickly, for they're easily aroused to envy. I hate to think this. They also become spoiled and tyrannical. But hire a former enemy and he will be more loyal than a friend because he has more to prove. In fact, Greene says you have more to fear from friends than from enemies because friends know you well. They know where to strike. And then he says something interesting. If you have no enemies, find a way to make them. How do I make an enemy? It's one thing if you're in prison, but if you're out here in the normal world, it's a little bit harder to make an enemy. Let's take a look at an example. In the mid-9th century AD, a young man named Michael III assumed the throne of the Byzantine Empire. His mother, the Empress Theodora, had been banished to a nunnery, and her lover, Theoctistus, had been murdered. At the head of the conspiracy to depose Theodora and enthrone Michael had been Michael's uncle Bardas, a man of intelligence and ambition. Michael was now a young, inexperienced ruler, surrounded by intriguers, murderers, and profligates, kind of like the empires in Rome. In this time of peril, he needed someone as his counselor, and his thoughts turned to his Basilius, who was his best friend. Basilius had no experience whatsoever in government and in politics. In fact, he was the head of the royal stables at the time, but he had proven his love and gratitude time and time again, as a good friend does. One time, Basilius had even saved his life. A horse had gotten loose, a savage horse. And in return, Michael gave Basilius all the gifts in the world. Hey, here's free schooling to Byzantium. Hey, here's a MacBook Pro. I really want you to have this. So now not only was Basilius his best friend, but he also kind of owed him for this luxurious life, so who should he hire? You should never hire your friends, people warned him. And then he heard, hire Bardas. Bardas knows his shit. But wouldn't you want to hire your friend? Of course you would. And it calls to you, this yearning, and so he does. Of course he does. How could he not? We all would. But soon he never had enough. Basilius had just gotten used to being pampered in the court. He became spoiled and he always wanted more gifts. He had this strange outlook on reality because this was his friend, this is his powerful friend. What the hell? So Bardas even gives Basilius his whore, his concubine. That's right. His mistress. See if we can pronounce this. Eudoxie Angerina. That was her name. Eudoxie Angerina. What a gorgeous name. You can tell that anybody with a name is Eudoxie Angerina is going to be really gorgeous and beautiful. It's kind of like Angelina Jolie at the end. It has an Angelina / Angelina there at the end. It's like being named Panthera. Sorry, I went there. Meanwhile, Bardas was put as head of the army. That's a lot of power, Basilius said to Michael. Dude, you can't have Bardas, the guy who deposed your mom, as head of your army. And you're gonna now make him, you're gonna give him this really powerful position. I don't think so. Don't do that, man. I don't trust him. We both determined that he's fucking psycho. Michael's like, you're right. I think you're onto something. And he wouldn't relent, of course. He kept telling Michael all this shit about his evil cousin until Michael said, fuck it, you're right. Let's kill him. Pulling out his daggers. And kill him they did at the horse races, and no one noticed the blunt knife shaft piercing Bardas' skin or his muffled plea and screamed for help. It was just too loud. All those horses clomping in the background reminded of Claudius and Hamlet somewhat. Soon after, Basilius asked Michael, hey, can I run the army? I think that I can run the army now. Bardas is dead. We don't have anybody else that can do that. Yeah, sure, Michael said. Good thinking. Not knowing what he was saying, he had rough afternoons lately and having a lot of headaches. Hard time getting through the day, maybe. We're just conjecturing. A few years later, in financial straits from buying whatever they were buying, we can assume it was hookers. Maybe I'm just... Anyway, no. I said that. But just think about what would it be like if you had all that money? Remember Mike Tyson? Geez. You have the world. These guys are not Marcus Aurelius, okay? These aren't Stoics. So Michael winds up going over to his friend after all this time and says, hey, I'm really broke right now. Do you think I could have some of that money that I loaned you from way back when? And sociopathically, his good old friend says, "No, man." Basilius actually said that. Like, he said it in this arrogant way. "No, man." Oh my God. Michael suddenly realized who he was dealing with. This guy, Basilius, the stable boy who used to be like nothing. This guy who worked down at the bar, basically, reading his Sylvia Plath as a bouncer, trying to be a rock star, or whatever he was trying to doing. He has more power than me now. I put him in charge of the army. They won't even answer my commands now. Do they even know who I am? And thus began the drinking. A few weeks later, after a night of heavy drinking, Michael awoke to find himself surrounded by soldiers, and they stabbed him to death as Basilius watched. What do you think Basilius was thinking? "I'm sorry, my friend. I'm really sorry, but we have to do this for the good of the people. I love you. I had no choice. You were fucking everything to me. I'm thinking bigger picture here. I'm doing this to champion the population." The next day, Basilius proclaimed himself emperor and put his best friend's head on a pike and strode through town on his horse. So what are we talking about here? Nobody believes a friend can betray, especially a friend who owes you so much, and they actually think they got that job because they were somehow worthy. They weren't worthy. They were pathetic. They were like a musician, failed, working down at the bar, like I said. So let me leave you with this. A Chinese proverb compares friends to a wild animal. You think that you can pet your tiger because you raised it, but the tiger is still a tiger. It's not domestic. That snake that you got down at Tropical World is still a snake. That heron is still a heron. That scorpion is still a scorpion. That tarantula is still a tarantula. That friend is still a friend. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was an honor as always. Feel free to share this video with any of your friends because we're putting out a lot more of these. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and thumbs up button if you haven't already. And meanwhile, I hope you're having an awesome week. We're putting out tons of videos right now. Many videos per week. I can't wait to see you shortly. It was great, as always.